Next up, Portugal, and the charming seaside resort of Estoril. Just inland is the demanding, narrow Estoril track, and here at last came the first Ferrari pole position since early in 1985. And Gerhard Berger did it despite motoring sideways while risking all and going for pole.
The first lap I had traffic, second lap I went off, third lap I do a slow lap. And I nearly want to go in the pits and stop because I say no reason to do it, try it again. But then I say no, I try, and I nearly give up too early.
Nigel Mansell was 0.3 of a second slower and was still unhappy about the power output of his Honda engine.
If I was in Honda's position, shall we say, Williams and Nigel Mansell are not going to be with Honda next year, and perhaps it would be more advantageous for them to have a Honda driver winning the World Championship. It's very easy for them to change the engine within about 10 seconds. This is very, very clever. There's a computer which looks after all the engine management, and just a few adjustments, which literally take seconds, can alter the fuel economy of the engine by 3%. Over a race distance, that's 6 litres of fuel, which is 2 laps. And there you go, you've got a formula of perhaps doing something. But I would like to think, and I personally believe, that they're not doing that. But I mean, who knows? We have had a few problems.
Mansell, also in an active suspension Williams this week, was nevertheless fastest Honda-powered driver, and only a 25th of a second slower in third place was the McLaren of Alain Prost. However, Prost was trying hard enough to make this rare mistake during qualifying on a circuit that the world champion acknowledged to be one of the hardest of the year.
It's physically very, very difficult, very tiring, because it's very bumpy. You have some long corners, very tiring, especially the one before the straight. You can have a cramp in the arms or in the legs very quickly, and it's difficult to push hard the whole race, the whole distance.
Fourth quickest was Nelson Piquet, now a firm convert to active suspension. And just behind him, a car that had been actively suspended all year, Ayrton Senna's Lotus-Honda. And with no Portuguese Grand Prix drivers to cheer on, the crowd left no doubt that these two Portuguese-speaking champions were their favorites.
Once again, Berger's start was not of the best, and Mansell was the clear leader down to the first turn, with Prost third and Alboreto fourth. But Piquet was inside Alboreto, and they locked wheels. Alboreto went off the road, Piquet got a puncture and damaged bodywork, and the chain reaction ran back to produce midfield mayhem. Campos showed his disgust graphically, and the race was stopped. From the new rear-facing camera on De Cesaris's Brabham, we can watch Martin Brundle going inside Nakajima and losing a couple of wheels in the process. So the field formed up again, and once again Mansell out-dragged Berger, with Piquet venturing round the outside of the Ferrari and taking to the grass. That helped Senna through to third from Piquet, Prost and Alboreto. Behind them came Boutsen, Patrese, Johansson, Chiva, Fabi, De Cesaris, Warwick and Dana, with among the non-turbos Alio leading Capelli and Streff, who were wheel-to-wheel. On to complete lap 1, and Mansell had the Ferrari in his slipstream, and Berger was determined to lead this race. On the start-finish straight, effortlessly he pulled out of the slipstream and simply drove past the Williams Honda. Here Maranello was showing real supremacy. Berger rapidly built up a big lead from Mansell, while behind the leading pair, Senna was now coming under pressure from Piquet. Alboreto was next, and Prost, as usual, was playing a waiting game. Piquet went through past Senna on the left-hander behind the pits. And Ayrton, his Honda now misfiring, was soon in the pits for a fresh black box. And then Mansell was in trouble, his hand raised, his engine dead. It was an electrical fault, And for Mansell, another Grand Prix was over. This left Piquet second, Alboreto third, but among backmarkers, Alboreto wormed past the Williams to make it Ferrari 1 and 2. But as they lapped Nakajima at the end of the straight, Piquet went ahead again. Now came the routine stops, with Prost's quick enough, thanks to this efficient McLaren operation, to re-establish himself in third place. And that third became second, with Michele Alboreto's retirement, with once again a gearbox breakage. But Berger still led for Ferrari, even though Prost, driving one of the races of his career, was closing in. With 3 laps to go, their tyres close to worn out, Berger spun. The champion's relentless pressure had turned, and although Berger was able to restart and go off to finish a furious second, Prost's historic 28th victory was in the bag. Unconfined joy in the McLaren pit, but, by contrast, lonely gloom for Mansell, as once again he trudged home on foot. And by finishing third, yet again Piquet had added to his total.
A wonderful race. Alain Prost had beaten Jackie Stewart's record at last. But Gerhard Berger on the left could barely hide his disappointment. His champagne was corked.